Hey, Mike, this dance is for you. You saved me. You saved me.
Winifred Colley dances in tribute to CBC News Edmonton for a story that exposed the manipulative practices of a car dealer.
You really helped me. These people try to exploit me. They try to really, really hurt me. But CBC was there just when I needed them.
Hello, I'm Adrienne Pan with CBC News Edmonton, and this was just one of many stories we produced in 2013 that demonstrates our extraordinary commitment to enterprise and investigative reporting. That commitment is unmatched in Alberta and has made our newsroom an acknowledged leader in producing accountability journalism in the public interest. We foster this commitment through our morning newsroom meeting.
So we were hoping you could do your Olympic funding story today.
Every member of the news team, from associate producers to managers, is encouraged to bring forward story ideas that will produce original journalism.
Basically, there's new technologies called biochar.
And every reporter who generates a good story idea is allowed to pursue the story, no matter their level of experience. Members of Edmonton's legal community are calling for changes to the way the province appoints provincial court judges. First-year reporter Jenny Russell thought it odd that Alberta Justice would politicize a news release announcing the appointment of new provincial court judges. Digging deeper, she exposed the fact that the very process for choosing judges had become politicized.
There's other equally qualified people who simply don't have a chance.
Darcy DePoe says it's been a persistent but overlooked issue for years. If you don't have ties to the provincial Conservative Party, you're less likely to be appointed to the provincial court bench.
Reporter Marion Warnica knew there was a much bigger story behind the death of Betty Ann Gagnon. The developmentally handicapped woman died after months of neglect and abuse in which she was caged like an animal.
Well, Adrienne, we found there were several red flags leading up to Betty Ann's death that call into question how the government and our CMP handled the case. Family and friends are speaking out in the hope this doesn't happen to anyone else.
People need to know about it, and I hope they join us in our outrage. And I hope that they say, my God, we need to stand up for her because nobody else is.
The resulting multi-platform project exposed how the government, police, and courts failed Betty Ann Gagnon. And perhaps most importantly, it raised public awareness across the country.
A neighbor may have seen this story and it may have triggered something for them or a family member or somebody else who might be suspecting that somebody's being abused. Stories like this open people's eyes to it and make them more aware of the fact that these things do go on.
Public awareness spurs government action, which is exactly what happened when veteran political reporter Kim Trinacity exposed the abject failure of a government cost-cutting measure. It left some of the province's most vulnerable people without adequate home care, and in some cases, no home care whatsoever.
It surprises you the way that it turns out for you.
100-year-old Helen Pierce was one of many whose home care services were restored after our story aired.
I can't give CBC enough credit for the investigative journalism that they're doing about our communities.
Journalism that produces positive change in the public interest. That requires two things: a significant commitment of resources and the courage to speak truth to power, to do the stories that others won't or can't.
CBC did a great job for me. They saved me a bundle.
Remember Winifred Colley? Her story was one of a series about the unethical business practices of car dealerships produced by CBC Edmonton's full-time consumer investigative unit, Go Public. Most other media outlets won't touch stories about car dealerships because they fear losing their lucrative advertising dollars. Go Public took them on and forced change for consumers.
There's been a major shakeup at the Alberta Consumer Watchdog. The Alberta Motor Vehicle Industry Council, AMVIC, has fired its top two investigators along with two other officials.
The firings come less than a month after CBC spoke to unhappy consumers, some of whom paid more than $1,000 for options they didn't want and document fees they didn't have to pay.
For years, CBC Investigates, our award-winning investigative unit, has broken most of Alberta's biggest political accountability stories, and they did it again in 2013.
The CBC Edmonton investigation has forced an Edmonton MLA to leave the Conservative caucus.
Our investigation found that Edmonton Manning MLA Peter Sandhu's home building company has a long history of unpaid debt.
A series of stories about the unreported debts and improper lobbying of an MLA eventually led to a groundbreaking investigation into a scheme to intimidate a Punjabi Canadian journalist. The multi-platform project, Imported Politics, is believed to be the first investigative project in Canada to be broadcast and published in English and Punjabi. Why both languages? Because we wanted our journalism to be inclusive while raising the broader fundamental issue of journalistic freedom of expression as widely as possible.
An extraordinary range of public interest journalism from a small regional newsroom. And what you've just seen is only a small sample of what we produced in 2013. CBC News Edmonton is the acknowledged leader in enterprise and investigative journalism in Alberta, and we hope you will recognize our commitment and our achievement. Thank you for watching. For CBC News Edmonton, I'm Adrienne Pan.